Last summer, I met a traveler that genuinely changed my outlook on life. The universe allowed our paths to collide in what might be the most unlikely place on Earth, Alichur, Tajikistan. Him going east towards China, me heading west, finishing my journey on the Pamir Highway. It is absurd. Alichur is a small settlement of about 1,000 people, and there's about 5 or 6 guest houses in the town. And without prior planning, we ended up sleeping just a couple beds apart in the same guest house. So we had to go out for a ride. We had to go out for a chat. Enjoy this Challenger chat with Omar Nok, the famed Egyptian traveler.
All right, hello. Who am I here with and where are you from?
So I'm Omar Nok from Egypt, currently on a trip from Egypt to Japan without flying.
We encountered each other spontaneously in this small village of Alichur. It's pretty amazing. I've been following his trip, but Omar, I wanted to ask you if you could compare them. How would you compare the hospitality of some places you've been compared to the hospitality in Egypt? Is it similar? Is there differences?
I think the level in Central Asia is a level I didn't encounter before. I had been to places, we as Egyptians are hospitable, and I have been to places, a couple of places, maybe Kosovo and Belize, where I thought that's like the A standard or something like that for hospitality, and I didn't think it would be exceeded. And then I came to Central Asia, starting from Iran actually. So Iran into Central Asia, all of them exceeded, way exceeded. So it was amazing to see.
Do you think it's partially due to the fact that they haven't been too well traveled yet? Like there's not too much tourism, or you think it's just the culture? What?
I think it's both. I do think it's mostly the culture, and adding an extra bit is that also there's not many tourists here, but the culture in their culture, they tell me sometimes it's like a code in their culture to treat the guest as like a king or queen. Yeah, it's really embedded in the culture, and it's like a duty for them. They look at it as a duty. So definitely, mostly about as a culture is the reason.
And in Egypt, where you're from, what is the standard for hospitality?
Well, the level here made it. I was gonna say in other times high, but then I saw the level here that now I'm gonna say above average, just because of the level I saw here.
Probably still better than some parts of the U.S. But uh, okay, okay. And you're going to Japan, which is also supposed to be very hospitable. But
Right? Although in a very different way, I've heard that as a society, it, it's just very different. How people look at life and live life, and I think there's a lot of interesting things, different things that could be there.
okay. And before we get on to the question that you chose, I wanted to ask you. Yesterday, you mentioned a motto that you live by. It's either a good outcome or a good story.
Yeah.
Is there something on this trip or another trip that made you believe that motto, or you've always lived by that?
I think I learned it just by a few examples where it was a bad outcome, and I wouldn't feel great. I wouldn't feel great, and I was like, oh, what a terrible situation, la la la. And then I realized in those situations when I look back at them, I don't look with sadness at those bad situations. I look as it could be a funny story, it could be an interesting story, whatever, but it's not in a negative light.
Yeah.
And so I noticed that with a few of them, and then my mind started to switch that, okay, if anything happens, I know that in the future, I will look back at it as a funny story kind of thing, or interesting story, or memorable, something very memorable to look back on. And so I just embrace it, and I'm like in a bad situation. I'm like, oh, I wonder how this will go. I wonder how this story will unfold. So I put a positive turn on it
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
I think a motto like that is part of the reason why you're able to travel across the world like this. It's
It,
having a belief system
it
like that.
helps. It helps.
For me, for reference, the only reason I met him is because I was vomiting out the side of my hammock 2 nights ago. So I stayed in a guest house last night, and that's the only reason we met. So that's a good example of
Well,
that
it's
motto.
funny to if you look around to meet in like you say, desolate village in a place like this. We're both going opposite directions. It's quite funny.
We're going opposite ways. We just happened to meet on this exact same night in this small village that I probably neither of us could find on a map a couple months ago.
And
Even
I was even not sure about the name when I was asking truck drivers hitchhiking. I was like, I'll teach you. And I'm like, Alichur. I'm like, yeah, that's the one. Just a small settlement, basically.
yeah,
As
small
a
settlement. There's like
small
8 guest
town.
houses, and we just happened to be in the same one. I was laying in bed, and he just walks. Absurd, absurd. But anyways, he picked a question from my deck, and the question was, "Why is it so hard to unite as a society?"
It could be a deep one, but I'll summarize it. I think it's because we don't get educated too much about societies that are not similar to us. Maybe I mean I know in the world there's the East and the West and that kind of stuff. So maybe Western societies are more similar and exposed to other Western societies, but not really to the rest of the world with truly very different cultures. And I think it's everyone lives in kind of a bubble of what they see in their life, what they experience, what they get taught at schools, and not knowing enough about other societies and other world makes people maybe have the mindset of us and them kind of thing, that we're not similar, that it's like they're one thing and we're another, and it's like very different. And I think that separates, that's a reason for separating people. But with what travel, what it does a lot is it opens your eyes to the fact that we as humans, we have a lot more similarities than differences.
Yeah.
Even though yes, we could have very different cultures, their ways of living, absolutely. But it's something to be embraced and interesting rather than something that divides us. And I think we have more in common than differences. I think we should focus more on what unites us than what divides us. Yeah.
You say this is a result of traveling, though. Like traveling helps open your eyes to
It
that fact.
helps.
But traveling is at the end of the day a privilege. Most people don't travel in the way that we are. So is it possible for someone not traveling to
Yeah,
learn
like I
this? Like
say,
how?
I'm not saying it's the only way. I'm just saying it helps,
Yeah.
and it's one way of doing it, or uh, like educating yourself about other cultures, other ways of living, and other ways is just educating yourself, however way you want to do it. I prefer travel. Another person might prefer reading books. Could be one
Mm.
person's, um, yeah, favorite way. Yeah,
Uh,
other ways. Yeah.
Has this become something like as you've traveled, you've become more passionate about wanting to share with people, like educating them on how cultures are more similar? Or
Yeah, because I keep seeing more things that deserve to be known, and people deserve to know it. That I keep seeing more different things that people have no idea about, and I do feel it's important to share those to just help bring people together at the end of the day, actually, rather than just divide us.
one of the reasons I wanted to meet Omar is because I think the way he's traveling, just going about letting the world take him where people take him, is I think it shows the beauty of humanity a little bit better than driving around.
No,
So
it's
they're different. They're
also
different
I'm
trips.
sure you get a lot of encounters also.
Yeah, I've had a lot of amazing encounters, but
A
I like
good
the way you're traveling. But yeah, I agree. I think it's. But then there's also the struggle of uniting even just within one culture. Like
Even
even just
within,
within one country, there's a struggle.
true, true.
It's not just about different cultures. It's like
Could be different ethnicities within one country, some civil, um, like opposites or
yeah,
some opposition or something like that. I think, yeah, like I say, it's we should focus more on things that unite us than what divides us, because they're more than what divides us. So
yeah.
it's just a mindset that I encourage people to follow, and I help share to help get that message out there.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's why I have love everyone on the back of my car. But
Yeah, good net.
all right, Omar, let's finish off with one question, and it's what is your favorite personality trait about yourself that you would want to pass on to your children or that you're very proud of?
The openness to people and experiences. So not being always having a smile, always looking at the situation positively or looking at the person positively, rather than at, by default maybe putting a barrier. My default is that a stranger. I think there's a quote that it's very relevant here. I think I don't remember how it goes, but it's like something like, "A stranger is a friend that you didn't meet yet," or something like that.
Mm.
And for me, that's how I look at it. For me, even if I'm meeting or talking with someone for the first time, I'm already treating them as a friend. I'm not treating them as a stranger. And then I just see where it goes. But
So
uh,
it's your outlook. It's your outlook. It's how you approach the other person. Like
yeah,
you have an inherent openness to who they might be.
positivity and openness to look at not just people, but also experiences. If you're in a certain experience, to look at, like I said before, to turn it positively in a way. Uh, but especially with people, yeah, it helps. It helps a lot.
And what if you have like a bad first impression or a bad first experience with a stranger? Like, does that turn you off from knowing them, or you're still?
So I do have also my how do you say, like vibe radar. Sometimes, of course, I'm not saying that every single person of the what 8 billion is a good person. Some people are not good. It happens. it's normal when you have 8 billion.
Yeah.
And if I find that the vibe is maybe off, doesn't also necessarily mean they're a bad person. It just could mean that we're not on the same page or not on the wave, not on the same vibe kind of thing. It's okay. I move on. I don't have to uh, deal deeper with that person in a situation. I just move on basically. That's
And
okay.
does this personality trait, does it come from childhood, or was it cultivated through travel? Where do you see it coming from?
I think more cultivated through travel over time. Well, also in childhood, I was it's fair to say that I'm a friendly person. I like to believe, uh, making friends and
Mm.
being with good friends and so on. But it even on top of it, travel even added a lot more to it with all the different cultures, even with all the language barriers and all that, just still managing to have a positive connection and a positive interaction without understanding a single word from what we say to each other. I think that's that's remarkable. Yeah.
I agree. I approach people with a similar energy, so it's cool. Thanks for talking.
No, thanks for bringing me out here in the middle of nowhere.
Literally the middle of nowhere. No people or cars, nothing. Nothing.